water? Thank you. I'm fine with it there. Yeah, thank you.
As a land-grant institution, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign has a responsibility to acknowledge the historical context in which it exists. In order to remind ourselves and our community, we begin with this statement. We are currently on the lands of the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Piankashaw, Wea, Miami, Mascoutin, Odawa, Sauk, Meskwaki, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Chickasaw nations. It is necessary for us to acknowledge these native nations and for us to work with them as we move forward as an institution. Over the next 150 years, we will be a vibrant community, inclusive of all our differences, with Native peoples at the core of our efforts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wonderful. Welcome to the 21st Annual Goldstick Family Lecture in the study of communication disorders made possible by the generosity of the late Philip and Beverly Kramer Goldstick. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cristela Musa, and I have the distinct honor of serving as Dean of the College of Education here at Illinois. It is wonderful to see so many students and faculty members here today from the Department of Special Education, Speech and Hearing, and other units from across campus. Additionally, we welcome our community members and practitioners and our online attendees. I can't see how many we have, but typically we have a whole nice group online, including some of the past Goldstick recipients. So they're all joining us from across the nation. And we're excited to hear today from a leading scholar doing important work to facilitate the social inclusion of children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Our 21st annual Goldstick lecturer is Dr. Zach Rossetti, joining us from Boston University. Dr. Rossetti is an associate professor of special education at Boston University Wheelock College of Education and Human Development. The title of his talk is Prioritizing Friendship in School and Community. Those within the College of Education believe in the transformative power of education to create a more just and equitable world. This belief drives us to become educators, researchers, and leaders determined to challenge the status quo and reimagine what is possible. We aim to improve lives and strengthen communities, both locally, consistent with our land-grant mission, as well as nationally and globally. And fostering a diverse and inclusive community of learners is not just a goal, it is a foundation to this college. Because of this, Dr. Rossetti's lecture this year is particularly relevant as well as timely. This annual event is made possible because of the generous support of the Goldstick family, who identified a need and made a difference, giving students, scholars, and practitioners an opportunity for both personal and professional growth. To date, the Goldstick Family Initiative has supported over 38 fellowships, 12 research teams, and 5 scholars in the field of special education. So this gift has had a global impact. Thank you. This gift has had global impact, with past recipients holding scholarly appointments around the world, including the United States, Spain, and Chile. More than 2 decades ago, Phil and Beverly Goldstick established a fund in the college and the Department of Special Education in honor of their granddaughter, Marisa Zellinger, who has Rett syndrome, a disability that impacts communication as well as other domain areas. Phil and Beverly wanted their gift to impact the future of children and young adults with disabilities like Marisa. And Phil and Beverly's deep commitment to the university extended far beyond this initiative in the College of Education. Their Illinois loyalty is known across campus. Phil Goldstick was a College of Business graduate and longtime active member of the University of Illinois Foundation Board of Directors, investing his valuable expertise and time in his alma mater. This is the first Goldstick family lecture since Phil's passing, and his presence amongst us is greatly missed. I know I personally miss seeing Phil sitting in the front row and taking notes and preparing his remarks, for the end, which he has always delivered with such wisdom just on the fly. The Goldstick legacy can also be felt and seen throughout this very building because of Phil and Beverly's passion and generosity. We also want to acknowledge the essential role that Beverly Goldstick played in being not only a loving and caring wife, mother, and grandmother, she also became a good friend to many at the University of Illinois. As I noted last year, I was disappointed I didn't get to meet Beverly, but I feel like I've known her from the great things, that I have heard about her over the years. Goldstick family, thank you for the generous support you have shown this university over the years and for your continued dedication to supporting special education research. As a symbol of our gratitude, I'd like to present Karen Zellinger and Gail Goldstick with a keepsake on behalf of the college, honoring your late parents, Philip and Beverly Kramer Goldstick. So Karen and Gail, will you join me here on stage? So Karen, would you like to make a few remarks? Thank you. Thank you all for now.
I'm always so proud to be here and to open our annual Goldstick Lecture. This year we don't have our patriarch, our father, Philip Goldstick, who with our mother Beverly created the Goldstick Lecture series, as you heard, in collaboration with the College of Education and the U of I Foundation. We honor our parents who had the vision to develop a mission-driven gift to teach best practices to those who work with the children who have communication disorders. My daughter Marissa was the impetus to create the gift. She has Rett syndrome, which doesn't allow her to speak and impairs all motor systems in her body. Communication is key, and thankfully she participates in a community-based day program that allows her to be with many young adults who she has known for many, many years. The interactions are priceless, but she still struggles to express herself, which limits her ability to participate fully with her peers and housemates. I am eager for all of us to hear Zach Rossetti share his research and enlighten us to learn how important social and family relationships are for everyone, and especially those with special needs. My father always spoke after the lecture and had the ability to summarize the key elements and bring it all together. So with that in mind, my son Brad, who has founded Stride Autism Centers that services those on the autism spectrum from ages 2 to 6 year olds, will have some remarks after our speaker, and he has a perspective as a brother of someone with a communication disorder. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen and Gail. On behalf of the Department of Special Education, I want to welcome everyone to another highly anticipated Goldstick Lecture. I'm excited for the lecture, which shifts our focus to considering the importance of connections and relationships, in particular friendships, for children with disabilities. Friendships are far more than a set of social skills that we teach children with disabilities. Friendship can be the bridge between isolation and belonging, between silence and laughter, and between being seen and being celebrated. It's about knowing someone cares about you just the way you are and can be one of the most beautiful parts of life. So it's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Rossetti today. For the special educators in the room, as well as on the live stream, I invite you to reflect on this talk and think about ways that we can create connections in your classrooms and in your schools. I also want to take a moment to personally thank the Goldstick family and the Zellinger family for their investment in research and innovation to support individuals with Rett syndrome. So Phil was a champion for this cause, and his love and devotion for Marissa was a sense of motivation for everyone connected to this lecture series. I personally feel a deep connection to the lecture series and to the family because I also have a family member with Rett syndrome. My niece Zoe was born with Rett syndrome, and like Marissa, is getting older and facing a changing landscape of needs. So the continued support of the Goldstick and Zellinger families is helping the field better understand and respond to the needs of individuals with significant support needs through the lifespan. So on behalf of myself, my family, and the Department of Special Education, I want to thank the Goldstick and Zellinger families for their contributions over the years to support individuals with disabilities through this lecture series and many other initiatives. And now I invite the Goldstick family scholar, Dr. Michelle Schutz, to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Sure. I think Gail's going to make a few remarks too. Yeah, go ahead.
So welcome. I am Gail Goldstick, and I am the proud daughter of Beverly and Philip Goldstick. I am proud today to see my daughter and son, sorry about that, and my grandchildren, and my husband, and my son William, to be here on this 21st lecture series. Sorry. As I gaze across this room, I am reminded of all the years before us and how the Goldstick Lecture was dreamt about, spoken about, and facilitated. And it brings me great joy and tremendous gratitude to the College of Education at the University of Illinois to sponsor the program for all of you students, all of the faculty who are so important in this journey, and so important that there's such a desire to educate and make a difference in the world. I thank you all for all of your efforts, and I wish you all the luck and success in your endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for your welcoming statements. It's my sincere honor to have assumed the Goldstick Scholar role earlier this year. And so first, I want to thank once again the Goldstick and the Zellinger families for your commitment and dedication promoting innovative and evidence-based practices, research, and scholarship that changes and improves the lives of individuals with disabilities. This is a true tribute to your forward thinking and your devotion to Marissa and others who we all know have so much to contribute to their families and communities. In addition to this event, the Goldstick family provides support to several doctoral students who have research and professional interests related to impacting the lives of individuals with disabilities, similar to Marissa Zellinger. And so I will be announcing this year's Goldstick Fellows, as well as our Zellinger Research Award recipients later this afternoon. Now, for some logistics for today's program, I want to direct you to the QR code located in your program. You can use this code to submit a question for Dr. Rossetti, and as time allows, I will select a few questions for our question and answer session at the end of his presentation. Also, if you're an Illinois teacher, you can receive PDH credits for attending today's lecture, and so you'll want to make sure to scan the QR code available at the registration table before you leave. And now, finally, to our keynote speaker. Our 2025 Goldstick Lecture, Dr. Zach Rossetti, brings unique experience to us today regarding social interactions and friendships between students with and without intellectual and/or developmental disabilities, or IDD. He specifically investigates the contexts and dynamics of such relationships, as well as how educators and families may facilitate social opportunities. His additional lines of inquiry include examining the experiences of families with children with IDD by centering upon their participation and language access in IEP meetings, community participation, family professional partnerships of culturally and linguistically distinguished families, as well as sibling roles and relationships. Prior to his career in academia, Dr. Rossetti worked as an elementary school special education teacher and an inclusion facilitator in New Hampshire. His accomplishments are plentiful, including co-authoring the books Affirming Disability, Strengths-Based Portraits of Culturally Diverse Families, and Seeing the Charade, What We Need to Do and Undo to Make Friendships Happen. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Education, an associate editor for research and practice for persons with severe disabilities, as well as remedial and special education, and an editorial board member of several other journals. And finally, he is the kindest of humans. Please join me in welcoming the distinguished 2025 Goldstick Family Lecturer, Dr. Zach Rossetti.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Dean Musa, Dr. Lambert, Dr. Schutz for your introductions and kind words, and for inviting me to your gorgeous campus. Thank you especially to the Goldstick and Zellinger families for making this event possible. I truly am honored to be the 21st annual Goldstick Family Lecture, and already can feel the great impact that others have been describing. Research about communication disorders and communication of individuals with disabilities, including Rett syndrome, is important because communication affects all we do. Additionally, what a gift it is to bring together families, teachers, service providers, researchers, students, and others who work with and love individuals with disabilities. And thanks to all of you for being here in person, and thank you also to those watching the live stream. My wife and daughter might be among that group watching the live stream, so hi, Laura and Grace. Do I have to? Oh. There's a delay, you said? Okay, so we'll see if we can figure this out. Today's focus is on promoting friendship development between and among people with and without disabilities. I'm thinking specifically about those with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities who do not speak when I refer to people or students with disabilities during this talk. Though the talk certainly applies to those with intellectual or developmental disabilities who do speak, and possibly to those with other disabilities as well. I'll briefly talk about why friendship matters. We're all here, so I think we agree that will be brief. And then we'll talk about prioritizing friendship, which is italicized purposefully. And then talk about prioritizing, which also is italicized purposefully, friendship. That's kind of the how to do it. I don't want to. This.
Embarrassed, and you are doing such a great job holding the fort.
All right, that seems, thank you. That seems to be working. I'm very tied to the order and stuff here. Okay. Good. Why friendship matters. Think about your own schooling quickly. What were some of your favorite memories in high school, middle school, even elementary school? Which might be tough for some of the older folks in here. I know I have a hard time with that. I'll give you a couple seconds. Think about some of your favorite memories. I hope some of you are thinking about a favorite teacher, being in teacher preparation, but chances are most of you are thinking about friends in specific situations with them. what we remember most from school is our friends, and for good reason. Friendships are important for all of us. People with friends are happier, healthier, and safer. The positive effects of friendship are uniquely reinforcing because they operate on multiple levels. There are many individual benefits. People with friends feel a sense of self-worth, feel more belonging, have lots of individual outcomes. And the friendship itself is an additional context, another vehicle for increased or improved learning and development. On the flip side of not having friends, unfortunately, this might be the most depressing part of the talk, so get ready. The flip side of not having friends is worse than we thought for all of us. In 2023, Dr. Vivek H. Murthy, the 19th and 21st Surgeon General of the United States, published our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation, the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory on the healing effects of social connection and community. In it, he sounds the alarm because people are experiencing problematic levels of loneliness and social isolation. Indeed, researchers using the 2003-2020 American Time Use Survey found that nationally, social isolation has increased. Social engagement with family, friends, and others, which includes roommates, neighbors, acquaintances, coworkers, has decreased, and companionship, shared leisure, and recreation has decreased. And in addition to the mental health challenges and problems that may result from that, which seem a little more easier to grasp. Part of the problem is the physical health problems, which are on par with being a habitual smoker. Though this is a problem that affects all people, those with disabilities are particularly vulnerable. Experiencing and at risk for experiencing more loneliness, long-lasting loneliness, and fewer friendships. Many individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities have fewer and lower quality relationships than peers with other types of disabilities or peers without disabilities, for example, and often depend on others, family, teachers, service providers, for social supports and opportunities. And that's, this support is what we are focusing on today. All right, enough of the depressing stuff. In this section, we focus on how friendship is often conceptualized and enacted for non-speaking individuals with disabilities, which I think is a big part of the problem. And if you don't mind indulging me, I'm going to introduce my brother Todd, who taught me a lot, continues to be my motivation in this work, and exemplifies some of these problems. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings in my family, and Todd's the 4th of us. He was a huge Boston sports fan, loved chocolate cake, any kind of chocolate dessert, and was very social. If he were here, even though I'm doing this talk and my picture's on these huge screens out there, you would know him more than me by the end of the day. That he's so outgoing is, or was, even more impressive because he didn't speak, used a wheelchair, and needed constant support throughout his day due to his cerebral palsy. He was also thought to have intellectual disability, though I've always disputed that. He and I were close, and as far back as I remember, whatever I was doing, I always ended my day by saying goodnight to him. When I was younger and hadn't yet studied special education and learned about different methods of communication, et cetera, when I was much younger, I used to shake his head gently after saying goodnight to him. Because I thought it may be like he would wake up the next day and be able to talk to us. As we grew up together, I quickly learned there are lots of ways to communicate. Eye gaze, making choices, verbalizations, laughing together, inside jokes. In fact, communicating and connecting with others without speaking was one of many lessons he taught me. I also learned that Todd was smarter than most people thought he was, in part because of his lack of speech, large part. I used to ask him questions like, where did Graham sit at Thanksgiving? And he'd look immediately at her favorite chair. He'd get upset when his other siblings argued. He conveyed clear preferences for music, books, movies, TV shows, food, activities, and who he wanted to hang out with. Yet most others outside of the family treated him as if he were younger than he is and assumed he couldn't do that much. We moved towns in New Hampshire because the school district where we lived wouldn't include him. In the new town, he was physically in the general ed classroom, but teachers assumed he couldn't do much academically. What's he doing in that second picture over there? What does that look like to you? Thank you. I agree. He's reading with a classmate. He's in class reading with his classmate. His teacher at the time told our mom that the camera must have caught him at the perfect moment to make it seem like he was reading, but he couldn't have been reading because he's the R word. Because of attitudes like this, he was often physically in the room, but not really partaking in academics. I've often wondered about the social consequences of these kinds of academic decisions and situations. Socially, Todd was always very popular in each grade. He smiles a lot, and the one movement he could always control was to raise his right hand for a fist bump or a handshake. So lots of classmates would do just that. Classmates and teachers would say hi to him all the time in the community. It was amazing to see. And clearly, inclusion is critical to friendships. However, despite his popularity, Todd was not invited to birthday parties, never called at home, and he hardly ever hung out with any friends outside of school. When I looked more closely as I got older and became a teacher, I noticed that people would greet him enthusiastically, give him the fist bump, maybe say something else or tell a joke, and then kind of stand together a little bit awkwardly, and then move on to their real friends. So he was included and he was accepted by wonderful, loving classmates and teachers, but he wasn't befriended. And I think that dynamic is why. And it plays out in different ways. Some students are seen as a class mascot. One mother told me her son was high-fived to death. Think about some of the dynamics you might have seen and keep those in mind during the talk. I just kept asking myself, how could someone who was so popular and had so many people interested in him not have any real friends? As a brother, it frustrated me. And as a researcher, it fascinated me. And also frustrated the hell out of me. So what do we want? Friendship is defined as a voluntary and reciprocal relationship in which two or more individuals show mutual attachment to one another, frequent proximity and companionship, and evidence of enjoyment or affection. And so I think it's helpful, especially when we're considering non-speaking people with disabilities, to look at these core characteristics of friendship for all of us, for guidance in what we do. These first four characteristics apply to people of all ages, but they are the key characteristics for young children's friendships. Proximity and similarity, usually shared interests or sometimes shared identity characteristics or affiliation with identities are how all people develop friendships. You see people, you befriend people you see frequently and who like the same things as you, basically. And I think we sometimes forget about that in special ed with our focus on intervention, and it's really important to keep in mind. Transcending context is a really important one. It basically just means that friendships are enacted in multiple environments. And think about that. When you are at school or at work, you might be friendly with people, and these are work friends or school friends, right? But when you have dinner with them outside of work, it crosses over into something else, right? A different type of relationship, a little more meaningful, and so on. And that's exactly what a lot of students with disabilities don't have, like my brother, who didn't see people outside of school. These next characteristics appear in adolescence through adulthood, and there are some important implications, I think, for people with disabilities. Reciprocity refers to a relationship being bidirectional. Both people contribute to the relationship, and I think need to, and we'll talk more about this. The key thing related to people with disabilities is that what you contribute to the relationship can and likely will be different. And so part of the relationship is recognizing, and part of promoting friendships, therefore, is recognizing how someone with complex support needs could contribute. What do they contribute? And looking for that can be tough sometimes if you're not used to it. And so that's part of this work. Mutuality is a big one. That means both people choose to be in the relationship. And we have lots of successful and effective interventions, or programs rather, related to promoting social interactions. And I always remember this characteristic because I don't know the extent to which, and I don't want to assume anything, that might be negative or, but I don't know the extent to which people are choosing to be in a relationship, or the non-disabled half is choosing to be in a certain club or activity, which also is fine, and you can develop friendships from there, but it's an interesting consideration related to these characteristics. Many students with disabilities don't end up experiencing friendships with these characteristics, unfortunately. And I've been curious about this and why the extent of friendship for many people with disabilities are those quick greetings, saying hi in the hallway and working together in school. In my research, I've conducted lots of observations at schools and outside of school, after-school activities in the community, and interviews with students with and without disabilities. And so I'm going to share some of them now to try to address some of these dynamics. So this, I'm not going to read a lot of these. Is that okay, or should I? I don't have it in front of me. Is it okay if I don't? So this one defines friendship and distinguishes friendship from acquaintances, and describes being formal, with acquaintances. You don't have that close connection. You don't know each other well enough to get to that informal level of kind of teasing each other or getting in a disagreement and making up, which is a core characteristic of friendships. And here we begin to see parts of the dynamic that might be at play where students without disabilities are describing not sure how to approach students with disabilities. As if there is a right way. I mean, I guess there is, to be respectful, and there are many things that we do teach. I shouldn't say that, but not sure how to approach them, being afraid to say the wrong thing, scaring them a little bit. And so when there is that lack of comfort and confidence interacting with people with disabilities, and those of us who know and love people with disabilities, are very comfortable and very confident interacting with our loved ones, students, family members, whoever it is. So it might be hard to remember this, but when you don't have that comfort or confidence, participants described either avoiding them. Think middle school students in particular, right? If something seems awkward, are they going to lean into it or avoid it? Or describe defaulting to inauthentic interactions. Being a helper, being a good person. And it's interesting because as the researcher doing a lot of this, I tried to press the students and ask them, I was not being a good researcher because I was definitely leading them, but they weren't getting it. I kept trying to ask them well, is this how you treat your other friends without disabilities? I kept kind of trying to go there, and they weren't quite getting it because they had internalized so much based on our, separate special ed system that they were reinforced by being nice and helping rather than being real and authentic. So that's the dynamic here. In the absence of comfort and confidence, participants avoided them or described defaulting to what I think are these inauthentic interactions. This dynamic is the exact opposite of students describing friendships being such a strong bond that they could be more authentic and informal with their friends. And it plays out differently across grade levels. I mentioned middle school students. There's some bullying or stigma in middle school, but mostly either avoidance or some activism. Some middle school students talked about how, the students with disabilities shouldn't be doing separate things. We shouldn't have all these separate programs. We should be all together, and we'll see some of these quotes in a second. High school students were really where we saw a lot of this. I just want to help and be a good person in the eyes, not of their potential friend, their classmate, but teachers. Many special ed teachers. Elementary students are learning all of these skills anyway, and there's more inclusion in elementary school. They were together more of the time. They need more information. Students with and without disabilities need more information about what's going on when someone has a behavior or needs to do something in the class that's not explained. So these negative social consequences, including confusion and hierarchies among students, I think are directly tied to the special education system that separates students with disabilities in various ways, physically or by status. Students without disabilities have mentioned being unsure how to interact, whether they even could interact when there's an adult, a paraprofessional, or service provider present, and the limitations of students with disabilities being in different or special places. Help is often provided to students with disabilities, not from them to others. Friendships result from horizontal relationships that are reciprocal among people with equitable social power or capital. Yet these students were describing vertical relationships. And we can see some more examples here. So the interesting thing, we have unified sports in Massachusetts. Do you have that here? So it's basically inclusive sports opportunities for students with and without disabilities. So this ninth grader is talking about a classmate with a disability who is at the very least also a ninth grader, if not a 10th or 11th or 12th grader. And he calls him what? Little boy, right? And you can see this distance in some of these quotes. And again, trying to be nice and helping out, but that's the extent, helping. And the effect of this is that students with disabilities are not seen as a potential friend. There's a status and a power differential, and not being in that pool of potential friends sabotages any of our efforts. And so a lot of today is about kind of stepping back and looking at that context and trying to see how we can address that, in addition to all of our efforts to teach various social skills, et cetera. What we, I think, are looking for in this picture and quote of Sarah, pseudonym, and her friends, is more of a horizontal relationship in which emphasis is on strengths and interests, mutually shared activities, and a reciprocal and authentic relationship. Which was initially not recognized by her parents. And so to describe, well, no, we have fun together, we dance together, I love her energy, she brightens up my morning. These are contributions and elements of a more reciprocal and authentic relationship. Similarly, this student bristled at receiving an award for hanging out with her friend, who happened to have very complex support needs and lived in a nursing home. To her, it was just like hanging out at anyone else's house, and you wouldn't receive an award for that. The fact that he had needs, the fact that he lived in this nursing home was secondary. Those are just details, but we have a relationship. Since these unequal social dynamics and power differentials exist among the status quo of service provision, we need to expand how we think about friendship and change how we enact supports and services. Time for some positive news. Friendships are possible and should be happening more regularly for non-speaking individuals with disabilities. Research has indicated two factors are often present when people have friendships. Direct support from adults is a critical facilitator of friendships. The other is that opportunities play a more prominent role in friendship development than the individual's skills. Certainly, friendships can be facilitated or improved when someone learns to introduce themselves a little more effectively or respond to someone else's comment in ways that don't turn off others and things like that, right? But all people can and should have friends while they're learning these things too. And so that's part of the expansion here. And there are many students, my brother included, because of he had a physical disability and was never able to use a comprehensive communication system. That's a whole other story in another talk. Sorry. Wasn't going to make any improvement in his social skills or kind of physical play skills or anything like that. And so how can we intervene in that situation? How can we promote friendships while we're already focusing on teaching students skills that will benefit them? Focusing on these opportunities in addition to individual skills. And it's helpful to think of these as opportunities to interact together, to get to know each other, to figure things out together, not necessarily opportunities to become friends. Because we don't expect and wouldn't want just anyone who seems interested to assume that they would be friend and that a person with a disability would want to be friends with them. Ideally, they would. My brother Todd was very particular, and he had a certain look when he didn't like someone who was talking to him and spending a little too much time like in his face or talking to him like he was young. And so to have assumed that anyone who was doing that would be a friend and to promote that would have been a huge mistake. People with disabilities certainly have agency here and need to choose friends. So what does this process look like? Oops, sorry, I should have done that. Because people with disabilities are people first, it's important and helpful to focus on how all people make friends. So this is the most technical part of the talk. So how we all make friends, surface structure on the left here, that just means social exchanges, social interactions that characterize friendship or a budding friendship at any moment. These are activities that are developmentally normative social behaviors for particular age, culture, gender, etc. So elementary students playing gaga ball. Is that, okay. As the father of an 8th grade daughter, she and her friends go to Starbucks after school. So that's like something that they do. And I bring this up because if we're promoting friendship, we need to know what students of this age in our town do and try to facilitate that. Families and adults in New England and here go apple picking, leaf peeping in the fall. And so these are all things that can be part of the facilitation process. So through participation in these surface level activities, individuals develop the deep structure reciprocity of friendship. So that means that they have behavioral, so doing things together, and affective, emotionally reciprocity. They get to that deep structure of friendship through affective sharing, which is defined as positive social engagement and synchrony or simultaneous action, and consists of time spent in synchronous interaction and responsiveness. So all that means is two people interact together, they respond to each other while they're interacting, they enjoy the responding and the interacting, and want to do it again. So pretty straightforward, like you do something together, you enjoy it, you want to do it again. Or they inherently get to do it again because they're in the same class or they work together or otherwise see each other in the community. Some of you might be thinking, and probably correctly, that affective sharing, that back and forth, enjoying, interacting, is where non-speaking individuals with disabilities might struggle. My brother certainly would. And as teachers and related service providers, our jobs are to help them learn things and develop the skills they need. However, that doesn't necessarily always lead to friendships. Friendships include both people in the interaction. And yet we often intervene with just people with disabilities and hope for the best. And in addition, friendships include two or more people, take place within very specific school and community contexts. Thus, a more promising approach to promoting friendships between students with and without disabilities may be to examine and intervene within the full social context in which friendships are developed. So this social context includes not just students with disabilities, but also their non-disabled classmates, adults who might provide supports, the social environment, the classroom, school, or community setting, and the social interaction opportunities in that environment. And I think intervening, especially with non-disabled students, coworkers, adults in the community, is incredibly important and has potential to move the needle on friendships in ways that may not be happening if we're not doing that. And I think about some of the things I know that anyone who hung out with my brother would have had to have known. And I think of a dad of a young child with autism. I think he was a screenplay writer, so I heard him giving a talk and telling this story, and he told it beautifully. I'm gonna butcher it right now, but it was a gorgeous story about his son playing in a sandbox, playing with train at the local park. And he had been doing this for a little while and hadn't really interacted with any other children. But his dad kept thinking, okay, we'll consistently come here. He seems to like it, and hopefully something will happen. And this day, a little boy happened to come over into the playground and said, can I play with you? I like your train. And his son didn't really change what he was doing or appear to have, didn't seem to respond in any way, kept playing with his train on his own. And the little boy said again, I like your train. And his son didn't respond at all. And the part that got me, well, two parts. One was, as a father, he was standing there to the side watching, in his head just saying, oh my gosh, please just respond. Just say something. You can talk. Just say something. And he's just hoping for some kind of response to promote this social interaction. And it didn't happen that day. And the little boy, after trying twice, left. And that's often what happens. These moments are so fleeting. As a teacher, as a family member, as a provider, these are the moments I think that matter. I remember doing research with a first grade student, or a first grade inclusive class, and a student with autism who loved Lightning McQueen and loved math, used to grab a stopwatch from his classroom, and at recess, as Lightning McQueen run around the playground, timing himself. And there was a little girl who saw him doing this, and as he's running around, she stood in his path and held out her arm for a high five. Turns out later that she knew him from the neighborhood. And so I was not the teacher, I was the researcher. And I saw this, and I was waiting, just like that dad kind of was. And he's running and getting closer, and she has her hand out, and she moves a little more, and he ran by. And then he does another lap, and she is out there again, and he ran by, and then she went off to her other friends. And to this day, I wish as a researcher I had injected myself into that situation, because they weren't able to interact. But here's the thing, while we wish that, he would have given her a high five or this father's son would have responded, there are many students who, for a variety of reasons, may never respond in a way that's going to be recognized. And so intervening with peers, and it seems like someone may have intervened with this peer, because for a preschool kid to come over and say, I like your trains and can we play, is pretty high-level stuff. But if we can intervene and, in developmentally appropriate ways, support that child to hang out for another lap, to wait a little more, or in the sandbox, just start with parallel play, get your own train and start with, then we can build from that. And so intervening with the context is any strategy, especially with non-disabled peers, that might promote that. And so based on a lot of this work, this social facilitation framework is not a specific intervention like we're used to in special education, but more of a framework that accounts for some of these complexities on the last few slides and can help organize efforts by adults. Think about adults on the IEP team to prioritize and promote friendship, and should be individualized, allows for individualization, and should be individualized for each person and context, which is what we do in special ed. So when someone wants more social opportunities and friends, there are ways that we can support them. I'm going to move a little quickly here. One is to develop a friendship mindset, and this is kind of an underlying approach or strategy, I think, that's really important in this work. I'm going to put all of these up here. This mindset sets the stage for all of the other efforts. It means valuing friendship, working to support friendship, especially as people get older. Believing your child or student can have friends and would be an amazing friend to others. I've thought over the years of not including this because I assume most people do this, but it can be hard if you've had lots of isolation or kind of failed attempts and lack of success in this area. And so maintaining that belief is incredibly important. How can my child or student contribute? What are their gifts? Friends of a young woman with Rett syndrome in my home state described appreciating that they could confide in her and that she comforted them. And of course, they loved her smile and her positive attitude. Helping people recognize these gifts is part of this work. Thinking constantly about the quantity and quality of social interaction opportunities. Not just thinking that the friendship club or the lunch group is enough, but throughout the day, after school. What does it look like when students are interacting together? Is it reciprocal or is it more one-sided? In considering the social implications of all of the things we do in academics, if someone has struggled walking in the hallway in high school, okay, it makes sense. I think it's very quick. Lots of teachers are very quick to say, okay, we won't walk in the hallway. That's one of the very few unstructured social times in middle school and high school. And so if it really, what supports could we add so that someone could walk in the hallway? Or if not, what are we doing to make up for that lost social time? So when you have this mindset, there's not one specific way to do it, but helps to figure out in this context for this child what we might think about doing. For those of you who are quantitative, you can collect baseline data about the number of interactions, the length of interactions, and then track your progress based on strategies that you're implementing. Related to those interactions, we talked about inclusion. Decades of research supports the many benefits of inclusion. But we don't always do a great job of valuing diversity and explaining things in ways that students can understand. And I just want to point out this first quote in elementary school, where there is more inclusion. Students talked about classmates with disabilities swearing, throwing pencils, being disruptive, certain behaviors that might seem scary. And either, for a variety of reasons, teachers may not explain what's happening to classmates. And so initially, I shouldn't say this, but I thought poorly of this fourth grader who said this. Like, how could you laugh at someone with a disability? But if they're never told what's going on and why it's happening and how we could support it or what to do in that moment, et cetera, and even that there's a disability and this, this is what's happening, that confusion, that fear is understandable, and it has social consequences. Related to adults, there's often focus on doing activities in the community. And Angela Novak-Amato, who's done a lot of this work, emphasizes shifting from activities to social connections, focusing on people rather than places. Who are you going to get to know there? It's not enough to just go to the gym to fill the day. But if you go to the gym with a support provider, it's probably just you and the support provider lifting weights at the gym, right? I used to take my brother to the 99 restaurant, and they had the, what was it called? The Towering Midnight Fudge Oreo cake, brownie, dessert or something. He loved that, but it was just us hanging out at a table. I mean, it was something fun to do as brothers, but in terms of friendship, it wasn't enough. Who's going to be there? Can you join a class where there are other people? And can the support provider try to pull someone in and kind of back off? These are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. And this obviously should be based on interests and gifts of the person. I'm going to keep moving past here to finish up a couple of things. The part in the middle, the direct support, these are things that adults can consider when connections aren't happening between students with and without disabilities. What are some strategies, and again, individualized, that we can make to connect them? Modeling how to interact, pairing or grouping certain students, thinking intentionally about how to connect them, and explicitly encouraging peers to reach out. A family I knew in New Hampshire was, like us, was trying to do lots of things and not having much success related to social interactions and connections for their child. And I think in a moment of frustration as a mother, his mother mentioned that he goes home sometimes in the afternoon and cries because he's so alone, feeling so alone at school. And somehow word traveled a little bit and got to some teachers who told some students, and like within a couple of weeks, like there were always classmates around him, and he didn't become friends with all of them because he didn't, like all of them, but that, it was a little overwhelming. But that, that kind of connecting, that explicitly encouraging peers can be helpful. Interpreting what's going on, interpreting social scenes for students with disabilities, for students without disabilities, preparation in different ways. And this, I absolutely love this quote about students with and without disabilities interacting. These are two high school students without disabilities and an autistic, all 12th graders, autistic student who didn't speak, who typed to communicate. It means a lot. It takes work. And the work, the things that they needed to learn, we know about how to support children. So students with complex support needs, students with complex communication needs may not initiate spending time together. So if we don't intervene and put that bug into students' ears, it's the rare student. Maybe it's a sibling or a rare aware student who's going to initiate that, but we can remind people. All of the things that we do and that we know that potential friends would need to know. That's my daughter when she was younger. An example of friendship work, pushing her uncle in the wheelchair. I apologize for moving through with this. I want to end on time so that we have time for the rest of the program. I'm happy to talk more about this with some questions or beyond the specific lecture today. Ultimately, for all of us, the motivation comes directly to the students or children with disabilities, siblings with disabilities that we know. My brother Todd had a full and fulfilling life, but he spent most of his time after graduating from high school as an adult with his immediate family, especially our mother and stepfather. And he did have a full life and got to do lots of amazing things. My sadness is not so much for him, but for others. Too many people missed out on the privilege of knowing him and laughing together. And so that's part of the motivation. But we need to end on a positive note. Todd's most social year was in 9th grade. Out of the blue and separate, which is so frustrating as a former special ed teacher and now special ed professor who does research in this area, who is advising our mom on what strategies to do, none of which were very successful, totally out of the blue and separate from all of our efforts at implementing all of social strategies. One of his classmates, who had a learning disability, I don't know if that matters or not, started spending time with him and basically initiated a friendship. It was awesome, I'm joking, but I was kind of upset that my strategies didn't work. And at the end of the year, they had a 9th grade semi-formal dance. Todd's friend had a date, and then his date's best friend asked Todd to go to the dance. We didn't even know about it until they told us like the day or two before or the week before. Our mother was recently divorced at the time and had to work, so I came back from college to get Todd ready, drive him in our accessible van to take pictures with his friends, his date and his friends, and then go to the school. And I have to say, I was at that point, decades away from having a child, and watching his friends wheel him into the dance while I was just standing there into the unknown of this 9th grade semi-formal was terrifying. I finally understood what my mom was going through, but that's not the point. So see the picture over there with his date? She's kind of holding his arm. She's kind of holding his arm, which might be a sign of affection. Remember I said the one movement he could control is raising his hand for a fist bump or a high five? During the pictures, he got excited or maybe possibly purposefully lifted his hand and it caught her dress and lifted up her dress a little bit while they were taking pictures. I don't think there was a picture. So she's grabbing that, but that became their inside joke forever. So when you're able to, and sometimes it involves taking risks, like our mom, who knows if she had to trust me driving the expensive, accessible van and take him, and I had to let him go. But that inside joke and stayed with them for the rest of their high school career. So thank you very much. I hope this was helpful. I apologize for rushing through some of that at the end. And I think we're happy to take some questions.
Okay, we have time for one question, and there were a lot of really good ones to pick from, so please ask him afterwards, and don't be upset with me if I did not choose your question. You spoke to this a little bit, but what is your take on the impact of peer-assisted instruction or peer-assisted strategies, and to what extent do you think they perhaps enable or hinder friendship, or what suggestions or implications would you make related to that?
Thank you. That's a great question, and I think you're referring to peer-mediated instruction and intervention, which is an evidence-based practice, basically peer buddying or some type of peer mentor or peer buddy situation, which is incredibly effective and has amazing academic and social outcomes. Number one, related to some of this talk, I think there are some important considerations. And I often wonder, and I haven't read every peer mentoring study, and the methods don't always say exactly what it looked like, but I often wonder, some of you are probably thinking it, why you asked this question. The mentoring role is inherently unidirectional, like one-way help. Like the non-disabled mentor is helping the student with a disability. And I wonder, that's fine, I think. But I wonder the extent to which they're instructed to go beyond that. And I sometimes see in some of these studies that students will say they're friends, but I wonder if they're friends outside of that class or outside of the intervention. Because based on what I presented today, I would want to see that. So I think it's all incredibly helpful and can be linked, but it might need to add another step. The other part of it is I'd love to see reciprocal mentoring of some kind. Lots of heads, yeah. So because I think it would lead to more friendship outcomes. And what happens in peer mentoring and these peer-mediated interventions, sure, there is some instruction that's happening, but it's basically a structured way to get kids with and without disabilities to spend time together. And then when they spend time together, Todd lifts up his date's dress, or they develop some inside joke, right? They figure out, especially when they don't communicate, if they have that time together, they have to figure it out. And that's when the good stuff happens. So I appreciate that question, and those are the two considerations, I think.
Thank you, Zach, for such an important and engaging presentation. We especially appreciate your novel focus on the powerful roles that adults play in facilitating or even hindering friendship opportunities for students with disabilities. All right, to wrap us up, before announcing this year's Goldstick Fellows, I'd like to acknowledge my Goldstick Scholar predecessors, many of whom are present today or are watching our live stream from various parts of the country. Jim Halley, Mickey Ostrowski, Hedda Midan Kaplansky, and most recently Cheryl Light Schreiner. Yeah. If you need to feel good about yourself, just teach undergraduate students. But in all seriousness, those claps are completely warranted. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for all you've done to help me through this transition. Lastly, I want to also thank the folks behind the scenes who have made this happen, including Allie, Heather, Ashley, Dana, Ryan, Nikki, and Janelle, as well as our technical experts. And finally, once more, I would like to thank the Goldstick family for making this all possible. All right. So in addition to supporting the Goldstick Lecture each year, the Goldstick family supports doctoral students through the provision of Goldstick Fellowships. These fellowships recognize their accomplishments in research, teaching, and service that advance services and supports for individuals with disabilities. This year, our interdisciplinary selection committee was composed of 6 faculty from the departments of special education and speech and hearing science, and so I'd like to thank all of the faculty who volunteered their time, especially during the summer. If you are here, let's give a round of applause from special education to Dr. Cheryl Light Schreiner, Dr. Kadi Zarati, and from Speech and Hearing Science, Dr. Marie Moore-Chanel, Dr. Laura Matei, and Dr. Savannah Brittlebank. And last but not least, our award winners. When I call your name, if you can please stand, and then we'll hold applause until the end. From Speech and Hearing Science, Rebecca Bosley. From Special Education, Sungji Ha. From Speech and Hearing Science, Alexandria Barkheimer. And from Speech and Hearing Science, Kaying Karen Wang. And finally, the Marissa Zellinger Research Award is designed to enhance the research mission of the Department of Special Education and contribute to scholarly literature on topics relevant to Rett syndrome and others who experience complex communication support needs. If you can please stand when I call your name. This year, the Zellinger Award is awarded to faculty doctoral student partners, Dr. Jessica Hardy and Fatma Noor Under. Dr. Hardy and Fatma Noor will investigate how augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC, can be used in concert with systematic instruction to support the learning of early mathematics skills for students with extensive support needs. All right, and it is now my pleasure to invite Brad Zellinger, the grandson of Phil and Beverly Goldstick, to the podium to provide some reflection on the lecture.
Hi, thank you. I don't know if it was just me, but this is the first time I've been to a lecture where I cried repeatedly during the lecture. But really, I could relate very closely to your experience with your brother having a sister, who can't communicate, and all that that it entails, for the family and community, and just hearing some of the stories, reading some of the quotes was really resonant with me. So, Also, it really shows just how social skills and relationships can't be an afterthought and like a nice to have. It's really an essential part of having a strong quality of life and even the health outcomes, as you said. So this isn't something that you can just hope to do. You really need to actively work towards it. But in terms of, I'm more of a preparer. Phil was really kind of an off-the-cuff guy, so I did write a few things down that I'd like to just quickly share. So it's really an honor to be here. And as mentioned, my grandfather, Phil Goldstick, always used to say a few words at the conclusion. And so this is the first time someone other than him and Beverly are saying something in their place since he passed in February. And I don't want to eulogize him, but I have been thinking a lot, reflecting a lot on his life since he's been gone. And he really set such an incredible example for living a full life. And there are three themes that I've kind of distilled it down to that I wanted to share. And the first is that he really prioritized quality time with family and friends, which is very relevant to today's talk. He showed his unconditional love by consistently making time for us and being there when we needed him, even when he was very busy with many demands. And second, he was really deeply committed to investing in his community. He served his country, and he was heavily involved with the University of Illinois and many other philanthropic initiatives to improve the communities around him. And he's left a lasting impact. Our presence here today is clear evidence of that. And finally, he simply loved life. He found a way to enjoy every moment, even being here every year and interacting with the individuals at the School of Education, the athletics departments, and on, like those, he was smiling ear to ear really every moment that he walked the campus, and loved golf, he loved food, he loved Illini football, and was a member of the 1952 Fighting Illini Rose Bowl team, which he proudly wore his ring, championship ring. So this Goldstick initiative and the lecture series are a beautiful fusion of all of those themes. It addresses a challenge that his family faced, so touches on the family piece. It supports a community he loved in the University of Illinois, and he enjoyed every moment that he was here. So I think it's really a neat way to bring all those pieces together, and I hope that we can all find things that kind of bring those pieces together in your own lives. And I guess one final thing is he would always remark often, and I watched last year's comments before, and he would express his hope that students would be motivated by these lectures and always emphasize that getting a good education and doing your homework was important, but the practical application of what you do in life is really what counts. And he believed that that was really essential, translating the theory and everything you learn into actual action out there in the community. So hopefully you all do that. And on behalf of the Goldstick Zellinger clan family, thank you. And Dr. Rossetti, that was fantastic. I really actually wanted to give you like a standing ovation. I thought that was really like excellent. And thanks again.
Thank you, Brad, for sharing your thoughts. That's beautiful, and thank you very much, Dr. Rossetti, for an informative and engaging talk. For those of you who might have been here last year, you might recall that the talk was on the complete opposite side. It was all about technology use and AI, and this year, all we've been hearing, especially us in education circles, has been all about the role of artificial intelligence and what would it do to education. And so I appreciate it so much, that at the end of the day, you remind us that what matters most is really our humanity, and that human connection and social interaction, which I try to remind everyone that it's not going anywhere. So we shouldn't be afraid, that the technology will eliminate all of that, because as humans, those are the things that matter most to us. So thanks for reminding us, though, reminding the importance of social interaction and friendship and how critical they are, and as Brad was saying, not just good to have, but essential, for our own development and thriving. So thank you. So we'd like to thank you all again for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again next year. And for those in person, please join us for a reception in the atrium. So thank you again.